Why hello and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm your host and guide, Zollin Ironshield, and today we are going to look at talk about the stat crunch in the update 37. This is a guide playlist, and we're going to see the differences between my stats previously and my stats now, okay? So, no, those are not my stats right now. Alright, I may have tricked you a little bit there with the stat differences. So that is a picture of the previous, before the crunch, the update yesterday, and after. We're going to talk about this and go over this. Now, I'm going to show you something just to make you guys laugh. So one second. Alright, just to show you guys that we all make mistakes, right? Like, again, with things. I was recording and I already made this video and I happened to have my mic turned off. Sad face. So you can hear the sounds of background, but not my voice. So we're doing it again. Well, I am. You're not. You're here for this. So anyway, let's go over this. I'll give you a nice, better streamlined video anyway than the previous one. So now I've practiced. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is mainly the differences between the stat crunches. And I want to just real quick just premise the fact that don't feel like you got nerfed, okay, guys? It's, the stat changes and numbers have been, across the boards changed, okay? So for NPCs, dungeons, raids, all the creatures, everything has been brought down. They said in their notes, if you watch my update videos on my update playlist, they basically brought down stuff by a factor of 10 is what they tried to do. And they also tried to reduce vitality and fate because they were becoming kind of out of control numbers. And you can see them there, the differences. The left one is the old one, right? The right one is the new one. They're pretty much identical. They're literally like 3 days apart. But I think these are good changes. They're good things because what they're worried about happening, and then I'll just give this real briefly, right? They're worried that when the next expansion comes out, which will be from 145 to 150, that it will cause a astronomical growth in numbers and be absurd to deal with and calculate, okay? Because what happens is if you remember from 130 to 140, we went from having like, I forget, like, I don't know, we really jumped in stats. I'm trying to remember exactly the numbers of like my HP before. I think our HP before was like 100. It was like this. It was like 150,000 or something. And then we jumped up to my previous health bar. You can see it there in max morale on the left one. Almost 800,000 health, okay? That was like in 10 levels change, okay? So what they did was, here's all the things, is they wanted to streamline it for one, so as you're leveling, there's not spots in your leveling experience where you feel either super weak against NPCs or super strong. They want it to be a nice, bell curve graph. They didn't want the little up, then easy, and then hard, and then easy, and then hard, like as you're leveling, because it wasn't really cohesive feeling in that experience. And I did have I remember even leveling recently where it's kind of, some spots were kind of rough because it felt really hard, and then it would be way too easy, and then so they've really balanced that out. They've balanced all the characters. They've made it a little harder to fight characters that are 6 levels higher than you. So there's always been this thing where it's harder to hit units that are higher level than you. So now what they basically did is when you're fighting someone who is 6 levels higher than you, it's even harder to hit them. And they've also increased the damage of a lot of NPCs on the field. So if you're one of my subscribers who've already said this, I've had some already tell me this, it feels like some things are harder, like some units. It is, but it's just to make it a little more challenging, and I'm kind of happy about that. But basically, it's going to reward you if you're on level, fighting things that are your level, and that you have decent gear at that time, right? It's going to reward you for having those things. It might be a little more challenging if you don't, but you still might be able to squeak through no problem, because it's still, all of their health bars are going to be lowered. For example, a lot of the lower level NPCs are like level 10. They've always had about 800 health, 800 something health. Now, a lot of them only have like 390. Max morale. So they've lowered all of their stuff too. So don't feel like it's being nerfed and like, oh, it's the end of the world, because again, remember, we're going to have that next one, level 145, 150, and I'm sure they'll design it where it won't exponentially grow with this update as much as it did before. okay? And again, we're going to talk through all the stats right now and go through them in this video. But I just want to let you guys know and not worry about that. Of course, it's a little frustrating. I get it. As, you know, you're like, as a tank, like I even felt it, where it's like, oh, where did my HP go, right? But it's all relative, right? It's all relative to what's going on around you. So it's not like we're all just weaker and now the whole game, everything's weaker. It's because everything's been adjusted, but the percents are the same. And I'm going to explain that right now in this video. So my previous making this video already actually helped me premise that a little better for you in a faster version. I'm already like, yeah. Okay. So if we look at this right here, okay. So if you look at the stats on the left, my max morale before the update was 800,000, okay? My max morale now is 123,000. Still really high in level 140. Still a huge number in the hundreds of thousands, right? And again, remember, their whole goal was they didn't want it to be like, all right, now we're getting into the billions of HP and damage, because that just gets kind of, honestly, old. If you think about it, it gets a little old, because it's like, why? Why would we have that big of numbers? So you're fighting a boss and you're like, okay, we need to do 2,500,000,000, whatever, 2 billion damage in 3.2 minutes to beat him at this time. Wouldn't it be better if he had, like, we need to do 1,500,000 damage to beat him in 3 minutes? Yeah, it's a much easier and more manageable number. And it might even be for their system. I don't know if it gets harder for the system to be calculating these massive numbers. I'm sure it does, just like anything. But, of course, our computers are so sophisticated now. It's big numbers like that probably aren't that big of an issue. But when it comes to a whole server, I think that it's good. It's a good update. So now let me show you why it shouldn't actually hurt your character that much. And you're still going to be doing good damage. You might not be seeing the massive exploding numbers of 1,000,000 damage if you're a Runekeeper or whatever, Burglar or whatever you're critting. But compared to the new HP of those enemies, you're going to be doing the same chunk. So for example, let's say you did 1,000,000 damage with Epic Conclusion. By the way, little side note, I want Epic Conclusion back, the animation Standing Stones. So if you hear this, even if it's just a toggle for me to see my own animation so it doesn't lag the server or lag other people, just my computer has to animate it, that's fine. But put it on put that animation back, because I really like the animation. But anyway, let's say you conclude with your Runekeeper, which is an ability's name. Big lightning bolt, boom, you do 1,000,000 damage to a creature that's huge, that has, and let's say that creature had 2 million HP. You do half its health, 50% of its health. Now, let's say with the number changes, you crit a creature for 50,000 damage, you know, or 100,000 health, you know, something like that. And you're like, oh, well, that's kind of lame. It's so much less than 1,000,000. Well, that creature also now only has 200,000 health. So you still did 50% of its health. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay, so that's what's going to be happening. So just so don't feel like it was a nerf. We've just brought everything to a new relative where the numbers aren't astronomically growing. That's the whole goal of the stat crunch, okay? Power. My power before was 74,000. Now it is 5,000. My armor was 641,000. Now it's 33,000. Again, much more manageable numbers. Back when we were like level 100, this is what the numbers were originally like field at that point. Might originally was 158,000 before they changed the update, right? Now it's 9,000. Mind you, if I hover it, it gives the same numbers towards other things. And I'm going to talk about the percents in a minute. Same thing with agility. For the comparison, you could see it there, but it was 15,000, now it's 1,300. My vitality was 153,000, now it's 19,300, which is about a factor of a 10 lowered. Not quite, but about. They've changed the armor pieces to be more balanced too. Will was 15,000, now it's 1,000. Fate was almost 30,000, now it's 3,000, okay? So, more manageable numbers. My critical rating before was 404,000. Now it is 23,000. But here is the important part. Again, I already gave you that relative thing with the health bars, right? And doing a huge damage like that. If you look at these percents here at critical, it says my crit hit melee for my chance is 12%. Well, guess what? It was 12% before this update. So my chance to crit is the same as it was before. Basically nothing changed, except they just changed how big the number was, right? So the percent is the same. Again, that's what it's all relative, right, to what is going on. And again, they did it the whole game. So you shouldn't feel like, oh, I was nerfed. My health is lower. Well, also that raid boss's health was nerfed by 80% and is lower, right? it's all relative, right? They're just bringing down the numbers so they're not astronomical for us to calculate. And again, that's the last time I'm going to say that, because I've said that like 4 times. Finesse. Thank you for listening, by the way. And if you do like Lord of the Rings Online stuff, don't forget to like and subscribe. Or leave a comment. What do you think about the updates? I'd be happy to hear both your goods or bads on what you think about the stat crunch. Please leave your comments. Totally. Let's just keep it fun and civil. And, yeah. And remember, if Standing Stones doesn't like it and something starts being upset, I'm sure they would probably revert it. They have that ability. So, but anyway, Finesse before was 363,000. Now it's 18,000. But my Finesse, reducing my chance to hit people, is still 18%. That's what it was before. So again, it actually didn't change. All right, so that's what you need to realize, guys, when you're doing this, okay? Physical mastery rating. Before it was 1,223,000, okay? Holy big numbers, right? They're not holy. They're just big. But then physical mastery rating, 80,000 now. But I still do 186.6% physical mastery damage with my ranged physical attacks and my melee physical attacks. That's what it was before. So no change, 0 change, okay? So I'm trying to get across to you guys, obviously. Tactical mastery rating was 153,000. Now it is 9,500, okay? Again, percent's about the same. Light of Arendil, that's the same, 80. It was 80 before. They didn't change that. There's no point because you can only go up to 100, that number anyway, I believe. Resistance rating, before it was 253,000. Now it is 17,000. But guess what? My resistances are still, before they were about 12%, and they're 12% again. Again, I did not take a picture of everyone hovered on the other one. Sorry, but didn't really think that one. Not really important anyway. Critical defense before was a 14,000, and now it's 10,000. Not a really big change there, but the percent's about the same as it was before. Incoming healing before was 332,000. Now it's 18,000. But 11.4%, that was about what it was before. I can't look at my block and stuff. I didn't put it on there, but it's no big deal. But let's just quickly give a quick look at my blocks. Well, guess what? My block is still 7-8%. That's what it was before. A little higher with my shield on. My Guardians can use block now with two-handers. It's a new thing. Watch my Guardian class updated video all in depth about the Guardians. Parry, it's on my same guide playlist here. My parry is still 9.8%. That was what it was before, even though these numbers are a lot lower. And evade was about 4% before. It's still 4%. Okay? Same thing. Physical mastery rating. My physical mastery rating and tactical damage types, it's about the same as it was in damage before. Not really a big change there. So again, the whole goal and point of me going over this was some of you asked me to go over the stat changes, okay? So I used my main character as an example, but hopefully for you it helped you out. Don't fret. It did not actually change the game like I'm pointing out with these percents. They're the same. Our damage output is the same. Our health is technically the same comparatively to everything in the game. So don't feel like, it's hard to keep in your head, to keep those separate, right? And not feel like, well, I have lower health now and lower stats, so I'm going to be weaker to everything. Well, try to keep in your head correctly that so have all the NPCs and computer things been brought down, just to make things more realistic. It doesn't mean they won't be just as strong as they were before, and you're just as strong. It's just all relative to the stats now and the numbers. And I do know they slightly have, again, even though they streamlined it, they slightly buffed the terrain to be a little stronger, because I know in the Legendary servers you can actually play the deadly levels to increase how strong the terrain is around you. And then you also have Sauron nukes hitting you if you want, which is a little bit frustrating, but is a fun little addition to making it harder. I think it is cool, though, because the terrain might be a little bit more challenging because they balanced everything. So now there's more areas that are, when they were really weak before, now they're a little more challenging. And places maybe where they were too hard are going to be now a little easier now. You know, balancing up the game. That's what we like to see. That's what we like to see. So anyway, there we go. Remade the video. Have a great, wonderful day in Middle-earth. Remember to turn on your microphone when you record a video if you're ever doing that. I'm sure everyone's gone through something like that in their life. But I found it as a funny thing, and it didn't bother me because it was only 2 little things I made. So thank goodness it wasn't like the 8 hours of work I did. Anyway, that's not important. That's not part of this video. Have a great and wonderful day in Middle-earth. Thank you to my Patreons for their support. I appreciate it. Thank you to my anonymous Royal Guard. So thank you so much, you guys, for your support. It really means a lot. I don't think I could do it without you. If you guys ever want to support the channel in a way like that, all my social medias, all that is down there. There's stories at the Patreon. But subscribe button's free. Like the video. Those are all free. Next video's up there. And over there, I do LOTRO Tale in this game with voiceovers. Have a great day in Middle-earth. And look, guys, there's a dog. Say hi, Brody. All right. See you guys. Have a wonderful day in Middle-earth.